Welcome to the Egg Whisperer Show, a program exclusively designed to promote reproductive health awareness and discuss fertility preservation options. Here is your host, the Harvard-educated fertility specialist, Dr. Amy.
She's known as the Egg Whisperer.
Fertility expert Dr. Amy Abazadeh.
And you have yet another success story
Just launched by an East Bay fertility doctor.
Welcome to the Egg Whisperer Show. I'm so excited to have my dear friend Stephanie Levich on today. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. And I've been waiting to have you on because you have so many things to share with us. Your company, Family Match Consulting, your new book, From the Start, a book about love and making families. So before we even get into all the questions I have for you today, I just want to read your bio. You are the founder, just like I said, and president of Family Match Consulting and a co-author of From the Start, a book about love and making families. You've worked in the world of fertility for over 20 years. You don't look that old, Stephanie. Having started an LA-based egg donor and surrogacy agency, and you've helped over 3,000 people find egg donors or surrogates and even sperm donors. And you're super passionate about helping people find their right match. And that's why we're friends. So much going on. And I want you to talk first about what is your inspiration? Like, what made you get into this field?
Yeah, so I have some personal stories that made me interested in this work, and I'll share the first one, which is the fact that I'm adopted and have the best parents in the world and wanted to help people like them to create their families. And I didn't know what path that would take, but it ended up being egg donation, sperm donation, and surrogacy. But the story of my adoption, I'll share a little personal background of what that looked like. So my mom, and it's interesting because, people think infertility, having a difficult time, having a pregnancy, but there's so many reasons that people pursue these other paths to have their children. And my mom's looked a little different in that at the age of 13, she had a tummy ache. She told my grandparents, they took her to the hospital, and they discovered the most random fluke infection that got so bad that the only way they thought they could save her life at the time was to give her a complete hysterectomy. So from that age, she just knew that having children in the future would not look a certain way. And it's crazy because she met my dad and they fell in love, but she thought he might leave her if she told him she was unable to have children. And so she kept it this secret. And then to her surprise, one day he proposed marriage. He got down on one knee with a ring and asked if she would marry him. And she said, "Before I answer, I need to tell you something." And she shared with him, the update that she hadn't. And his response, I get chills every time I tell this story because he said, "So we'll adopt. What's your answer? Are you marrying me or not?" And they got married and later went on to adopt me and who became my brother and my sister. And again, I just have such amazing parents that I wanted to help people like them. But then infertility touched me in another way personally. After working in the field for 10 years, I was diagnosed with unexplained infertility. And we tried for years to conceive. Nothing worked. IVF finally did. And I am so, so grateful. And I have my little 7 and 9-year-old miracles as a result of it. And so this is just all to say I am so personally and professionally invested in this work that I'm so, so lucky to be able to do.
I feel the same way. And I'm also inspired to do the work I do because of my mother as well. And I have a feeling that your book, tell us about it. Maybe your mom was an inspiration for that too, but tell us about the inspiration behind your book.
Yes, my mom is an inspiration for so much that I do, but the book included. But a big part of it for me with the book was being asked so often by clients for my advice on how to tell their children that they were born through egg donation or surrogacy. And I'd love to be able to give them resources, and there are some that exist, but none of them encompassed all the amazing ways families can be created. So while there's children's books that speak to surrogacy, for example, or adoption, I think that's really great and important, but it really doesn't give children the full picture of family building and allow them to put their story in the context of this bigger picture. And so I wanted to create something that could be that any family, any parent who conceived through egg donation, sperm donation, IVF, had their family through adoption, any person was single, married, same-sex, hetero, whatever it is, any person can pick up this book and read it to their child and have it apply and tell their own story.
And I love the first 3 words, from the start. And I think donor conceived people have been begging for that. And not just from age 18 or age 30 through a 23andMe test, right?
That's right.
Thank you for writing this book. So what would your advice be? And I just basically just probably gave it away. To a parent who has a donor conceived child, how would you tell them if the child asks, Mommy, where did I come from? What would your advice be?
My best advice comes from my personal experience with my adoption and how my parents shared with me my story. And the way they opted to do it was very, very early and often. And they said words that I didn't understand, like adopted. I didn't know what that meant, but they, explained it in the best way they could for me as a child. And so when people ask me, when did you find out you were adopted? My answer is always the same. I have always known. And I think that is the best way to tell any child their story is early, so that one day when someone asks them that question, they say, I don't know. I've just always known. So it's not a big, secret that's told later on. And we don't want to treat these things as secrets because that has a negative connotation. And children feel that they can sense that. And so the more open and honest we are, the more comfortable the children will be in their story and how they came into this world. And that ultimately helps them psychologically, going forward as an adult, just being comfortable in their skin and who they are and where they came from.
For people who are listening who don't know this, your husband's actually been on Shark Tank, and Family Match Consulting has a little bit to do with that journey. Can you tell us about how you went from Shark Tank to Family Match Consulting?
Yes, it was a very strange path, but it ultimately is what sparked me to start Family Match. So thank you, Dave, my husband. So as you said, I've worked in the field a long time. I started and ran a large egg donor and surrogate agency for many years. I sold the agency wanting to kind of get into some other path within the field, and I wasn't quite sure what that would look like yet. So within this kind of this interim of figuring it out, my husband, who owns a novelty eyewear company, it's called Sunstashes, and they make these fun glasses that make you look like different characters like Batman, Superman. He said, we need help. We're growing. Can you work with us for a period of time? And I thought, gosh, this is so not even close to what I do, but I'll do this. I'm going to help him. What I didn't tell him was that I had a very specific goal of I wanted to get him and his 2 business partners on Shark Tank. They have such a fun product. They are 3 best friends, business partners, super fun guys. I thought they were perfect. And so I started the application process. I produced a video for them. They were like, we are hands off. If you make this happen, we will show up. And so it kept going and going, and we kept making it through the different stages. And next thing you know, they aired on Shark Tank and they made a deal with Damon John, who's a partner of theirs. And it's been really exciting. And it was a lot of fun. And then the dust kind of settled from Shark Tank. And there I was at my husband's office selling novelty eyewear online. And I thought, gosh, honey, I love you so much, but bye-bye. I am going back into the work that I love. And that was it. So I just knew even more with conviction after that my path needs to be in the fertility world. That's where I belong. And so I started Family Match Consulting.
And what is it? What do you do for people?
So we are a consulting firm that helps clients find the best egg donors, surrogates, sperm donors through a network of agencies, which I can talk about. And then we also offer ongoing consulting and advocacy for clients as they make their way through this process.
And what do you love about the work that you do?
I love so many things about it. I love when clients come to us after going through so much and trying to find a donor unsuccessfully or not knowing what to even be looking for, and being able to really guide them and get them to a place of feeling comfortable. And even more so, sometimes we see clients go from, I can't do this. This is so hard and daunting and emotional. And then I tell clients, when you find the right donor, it might not be excitement like, woohoo, let's do egg donation, but it really changes it in their mind from, I can't do this to, oh, I can. And this feels good and comfortable. So finding that right match for them is what kind of changes that. And we love being able to see that shift.
So why should someone work with you when they can just go directly to an agency to do these things for them?
So years ago, for so long, the path of finding a donor or surrogate was thought to be you go to an agency, find somebody through that agency. And really one of the big reasons I started Family Match was when I owned my agency, clients would call all the time and say, I'm looking for this surrogate or this egg donor. And we didn't have that candidate. And I had to say, so sorry, we don't have someone, good luck. And there was nowhere to send them. I could give them 10 other agencies and they could still have the same outcome. And so I wanted to create kind of a one-stop shop where anybody embarking on any part of this process can call and be helped, because we are not married to any candidates that we have. What we've done is created a network of over 100 different programs that we know, we trust, we vetted. We have a long list of agencies we won't work with, but they come to us. We help them understand what they're looking for, get a feel for it, and then we get to cast a really large net to help them find the person they're comfortable with. And the thing about surrogacy, I want to speak to that for a moment because it's very different than egg donation. So surrogacy, a lot of agencies, the way the process looks for intended parents is you pay a large deposit, you retain the agency, and they put you on a wait list to find a match. And that might be the path for some people, but I tell clients when we consult together, I say, that is one way. I don't want to have this conversation and push you to work with us. That's for me not what it's about. I want you to understand the options that exist so that you can make the most informed decision as far as the path that makes sense for you. And what a lot of people don't know is that's not how you need to go about finding a surrogate. There are other ways. There's agencies that don't require a retainer that we work with that give us access to their surrogates. Another big part of why I started this program was, for me, the idea of go to an agency and kind of marry yourself to the candidates that one agency has available didn't approach it the way I would want to as an intended parent. You know, I asked myself the question, as an IP coming into surrogacy, what's the most important thing? Hands down, I believe it to be the surrogate. It is the person that they're trusting to do this most epic thing. And so the idea of just being married and limited to one agency's candidates, it didn't approach it in the way I would want to. So we really turned the focus over on finding the best surrogate while still making sure that the agency meets a certain threshold of care, which is, of course, very important.
Yeah, I mean, I think what people think is that to find a surrogate, you just find an agency. And I always tell people, no one at the agency is carrying the pregnancy for you. You find the surrogate first, then you match with the agency. And they're like, well, that's not what all my friends told me. I'm like, I know, but that's what I'm telling you. And I'm so glad that you're like aligned in the same way, because I feel bad for all those people that are still waiting 12 months for a surrogate because they paid up front to an agency for a match. And you know, who knows when they're going to see a profile that's suitable for them.
It's true. And to bring in another big reason for that, we're in this weird time right now in COVID, where obviously it's impacted the whole world, but surrogacy is no different. And so agencies, a lot of those big agencies that require retainers are struggling more than they ever have, because a lot of surrogates are not willing to vaccinate, and most intended parents want a surrogate who's vaccinated or willing to be. And so those wait times are longer than they've ever been in my career.
Yeah. I mean, I have a no vaccine, no transfer policy for surrogates, and I've been lucky. I haven't had that kind of situation. And I think it's because the agencies know that. So they're not presenting me any profiles of anyone who isn't who is not vaccinated. And this is such an emotional process. I mean, I feel like much of what I do is navigating the ups and downs emotionally for my patients. I imagine you do the same for your clients. So how do you suggest that future parents approach the mental health side of this equation?
I think really leaning on the support of you, Amy, as their doctor. I think anyone going through this should really lean on their doctor as much as possible to just understand where they are in this, get any resources, but then also reach out to mental health professionals. There is help out there. There are people who understand this. Resolve has support groups all over the country. And I think also plugging into somebody who is open about their journey, who has been through it, to really understand and connect with somebody who's been there can be really, really helpful.
And I just also wanted to add one thing that people might not know about what you offer from a sperm donor matching standpoint. Can you share a little bit about what sets you apart in terms of finding a sperm donor for people who don't know?
Absolutely. And it's interesting because, we work in both fields, Amy, and we see the differences of how we approach both. And it's very unique in that there's so much information available about egg donors and photos, whereas in the sperm world, it's more limited, and oftentimes there's no adult photos. And I find that it's especially challenging for clients who are looking for both, and they just come off of a donor search with us where they've seen 100 profiles of amazing candidates with all these pictures, and maybe they've even had a Zoom meeting with an egg donor before choosing her. These are things that you can do in egg donation that don't really exist in sperm donation. So when they come from that to finding a sperm donor and going through traditional sperm banks with just childhood photos, it can be really difficult. But what's very exciting, I think, that's happening in our field is there's starting to be a shift. And I think we're going to see more and more of it, where there's programs starting these quote unquote fresh sperm donor programs, where it's treated more similarly to egg donation in that a client can choose a sperm donor. Sperm is not at a bank frozen somewhere, but the sperm donor instead goes through the whole vetting screening process with their fertility doctor. And because this is kind of a one-to-one match, there's this opportunity now for more information to be shared, for more photos to be shared, for there even to be a meeting between the two parties, which didn't really exist very much in the world of sperm donation. So it's a very exciting time, and we're going to see more and more of these shifts, which I very much look forward to.
Well, I'm so excited to hear more about all the ways that you're making things better for families who are doing creative family building out there. Thank you, Stephanie, for sharing so much of yourself today. I learned so much about your parents. What a cute story, your husband on Shark Tank, and how sperm donation is changing. You guys, you heard it here first. Stephanie Levich from Family Match Consulting. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Amy.